So guys, the last 2 months have been insane for the meta in Idle Heroes. We've seen Almost adjusted, Starlight reworked, Bade reworked, we've seen Asthma Doll and Dark Doll readjusted, and the stat changes have been incredible, their performance has been completely skyrocketed, and I was thinking, how on earth am I supposed to release a new tier list when DH Games keeps changing the bloody game every week? We even saw Vesa reworked, reskinned twice, it was just mad, right? But now, it's all come to a peaceful end, right? There are no more changes that we can see coming our way, and Oberon's been released. He was a little bit adjusted, and now he's stabilised, so finally, I'm at a point now where I can release to you a new PvP tier list, and it's been a long time coming, guys, so sit back, relax, and come check out my rankings for Idle Heroes E3 Endgame Meta. Let's get straight in there. So in Tier 0, it should come at no surprise to see Ada still up there at the top. As well, we've decided to add Double Mim as a reflection that Double Mim is a fantastic hero combination that is definitely game-breakingly strong. It's so powerful. So if you're running a good versus evil team with Double Mim, you know what I'm talking about. If you guys have had to face it or see it, running 2 Mims is just astronomical. When both of those final passives work out together, that's a lot of damage, and teams nearly get entirely depleted in 1, 2, maybe even just 3 rounds. It's pretty impressive to see. Stepping down to Tier 1, we've got Aspen and Mim, still remaining up there as some top Dark choices. You'll also notice Dark Doll has moved her way up into Tier 1, and that's because her buff has been incredible. When she takes damage, she increases her own attack and skill damage, and she does an awful amount of damage because of it. If you combine that with a strong artifact and a healer to bring her back up so she can take even more damage, she's going to burst and decimate opposing teams. If you haven't seen my video on good versus evil, go check it out and you can see Dark Doll doing some insane numbers. Asthma Doll, it's the exact same thing. He's been buffed up and he's really strong because of it. The critical marks he deals now do an insane amount of damage, and he can decimate through teams, easily out-damaging Ada's when he goes off and doesn't get CC'd. Valkyrie, again, remaining as a top-end hero alongside Cruz. Both of them are fantastic choices for Rainbow teams and almost arguably instant picks in that regard. Stepping down to Tier 1.5, we've got Navarre, who's a fantastic burst hero, no change there. Belrain, again, still maintaining her spot in Tier 1.5, a fantastic support hero, arguably best built for speed and energy right now, so she can give the buffs immediately before she dies, because we are in a very fast, aggressive meta right now. Michelle, standard, always been up there near the top. You want to run her with speed and energy, it's always been that way. Horace, we actually see in an awkward position, actually. Tier 1.5 is where he was last time, but he's looking like he's becoming less significant. As games are getting quicker, heroes are dying faster, Horace isn't really getting the chance to block attacks and get his damage out, so it's kind of a shame, but I think he still, for now, gets to remain in Tier 1.5, but watch this space, we could see him moving down. And Almost has actually moved up, because Almost and Valentino, both completely fantastic picks for Redemption and Rainbow, both as good as each other, both have their strengths in different areas. Almost provides healing, can bring up Dark Dolls to make them do insane stuff, he can keep your Aspen and your Ada alive, brilliant. Valentino, he can stun other CC threats that would otherwise stop your Aspens and Adas. Valentino's also had his active skill adjusted so that it no longer shoots in a particular order, so it's much harder to predict and much harder to play around, which means he's also maintained his spot near the top. Coming down now to Tier 2, you'll notice that Faith Blade has dropped a little bit, and that's because since the buff to Asthma Doll, he's becoming a lot less favourable in good versus evil teams. So many teams are running double Ada, or Asthma Doll Ada Belrain, or Asthma Doll Ada Michelle, that it's become really difficult to justify running Faith Blade in a team. Sure, he provides stun, but a lot of heroes are stun immune, and unless heroes are dying quick enough, he's not really going to get to abuse his active skill, and at the end of the day, it almost seems like a win more. It's not actually going to help your team any more than just running the other ones would. So we see him down in Tier 2. Sure, he's a fantastic hero, but he's not as necessary as he used to be. You know, there was a time he was Tier 0 and busted, but then E3 happened, and we've got E5 over the horizon, so you never know, that could mix things up even more. Aiden, you'll notice, has massively moved up to Tier 2, and that's due to a post by Wacken9929 on Reddit, where he argued that cheese teams are the thing right now, and he had a really good point about it. Like, I've kept Aiden low because I didn't like the idea of cheese teams dominating the meta, but really, cheese teams have dominated the meta. They're all over at the moment, and if you're gonna run an Aiden it's actually a really good idea. He does a lot of burst and a lot of damage, and he could actually be a top pick for rainbow teams. But until that becomes like super popular, we're yet to really see that on paper. But definitely get your hands on some Aiden copies, see what you can do. He's definitely one of those sleeper heroes at the moment. Jara, you can see, has remained in tier 2, and now the next surprise is Emily. Emily, for the same reason as Aiden, is cheesable, and when Emily gets reduced below 50% health, she supports your heroes by buffing their attack drastically. Her active skill also buffs your heroes, so you want to give her speed, energy, hope she gets knocked down, and she's going to massively improve the stats of your heroes. If you run her alongside Cruz, both of them with speed, energy, you're going to debuff the opponent, buff up your team, and then heroes like Aiden are just going to pop. It's incredible. Alongside a Mim, like a suggested rainbow team would be Ada, Mim, Aiden, Emily, Cruz, and then for your Dark, I know you've already got Mim. What's the hero I've missed? Oh, of course, Forest, Valkyrie, instant pick, right? So yeah, you can do some really silly stuff with Aiden alongside Emily. It's definitely worth checking out. Then we've got King Barton, and he's in tier 2. A lot of people don't like this, but he really kind of drops off when you get to the full end E3 meta. Like, you've got Ada who tears through him, and other massive damage dealing heroes that can just drop him really quickly. CC stops him from doing anything. Like, he's not a bad hero at all. Like, when he goes off, he does some incredible damage, but he really does prefer longer fights where he can just keep dishing out his counter, where he can just keep getting hit. But if he's dead in like 3 hits, he's not really going to do the kind of crazy stuff we've known him for doing since before Ada and Aspen came out. So it's a shame to see him down in tier 2, and there are definitely teams that will perform well with him. He's not a bad pick. He's definitely, like, look at him, he's the second best Abyss choice, right? Cruz is the only Abyss hero higher, so he's definitely a good hero to get your hands on, but he's just not as good as Cruz. That's something we need to be aware of. And finally, in tier 2, you'll notice the new hero we've had released, it's Oberon. And Oberon at first was really disappointing, but then they managed to change his stats a little bit, move his abilities around, and he's been pretty good. Like, his Twine is fantastic. When that goes off, you can really lock down opposing teams, and when it gets to those fights where it's just maybe 2v3 or 1v2, where it's just like a very small amount of heroes, he can almost on his own CC lock the whole opposing team. It's really funny to see, and he's really strong. We've seen some really cool stuff from Zeals, where running 2, maybe just 1 Oberon alongside a whole team of Valkyrie is insane and nearly unbeatable, but I think that more pushes towards how good Valkyrie is rather than how good Oberon is. But Valkyrie needs a little bit of CC alongside her to do her best, and Oberon is now our Forest equivalent of Valentino. He is the CC hero for Forest, so definitely outclassing Demon Hunter at the moment. He's our new CC hero for Forest. I like him. He's good. He's not the best, but he's definitely pretty damn good. So kicking off tier 3, we've got Dasmoje, who's probably the biggest wet blanket of all the light and dark heroes. At the moment, he isn't doing anything. He needs lots of time to buff up. He gets stronger when your active skills go off. But sadly, rounds are so slow, and he's so weak to CC that he's probably not going to do anything. You will see some freak circumstances where rounds go on a little too long, too many active skills go off, and Dasmoje does some big damage, but that's a lot rarer than it is when we see heroes like Navarre, Aspen, Mim dealing the insane numbers that we're used to seeing. And you look at someone like Dark Doll now, who's been moved up. Why on earth would you look at Dasmoje? Dark Doll's not only easier to get copies of, she also does some insane damage. So for me, Dasmoje's really weak right now, not really worth picking over the other light and dark heroes. Moving across, we end up with Corpse Demon, but he's outclassed by Aiden, Jara, and Horace. But it doesn't mean he's a bad hero. We like Corpse Demon, his CC's nice, but he just doesn't really dish out that much damage, so you do need to give him a lot of damage dealers alongside him to see some decent support. Flame Strike, she's okay. She deals some massive damage if you put her alongside Cthulhu and other burning heroes, and Sigmund also is a way of providing that burn. Flame Strike can deal huge damage, but if she's CC'd, she doesn't, and that is one of her weaknesses. If she dies again, like Ada can really strip away at her. Dark Doll is a much more consistent version of Flame Strike right now, so I would avoid running Flame Strike Cthulhu teams for the time being, but definitely keep a hold of them. We could see them moving up in the E5 meta. Sigmund is another hero worth considering for this, but he's a little less fantastic, right? He's like a bad King Barton. He doesn't offer CC like King Barton does, and when he gets hit, he counterattacks and burns and does strip away opponents' defenses. But the problem is, the more defensive you make Sigmund, the less damage he's going to do, but the more damaging you make him, the squishier he is, and the easier it is for him to die. So it's kind of a trade-off you need to find, and it's often hard to do that with someone like Sigmund. King Barton's probably the better pick, but if you really do need Sigmund plus Flame Strike, maybe on, let's say, a Justice Aura where you've got 3 Forest and Fortress heroes, it's kind of like, you know, it could be done, but it's not optimal. Shah is probably the biggest surprise here. She has moved down to tier 3, and it's because she's really not doing much right now. She's very squishy, she's easily killed by Aspens and Adas, and she just doesn't really get to do what she does best, which is the big slash damage she gets from buffing herself up when she blocks, and then going off to blow away opponents, but she doesn't really have the time to get herself strong enough to do that anymore, because the meta is so fast with Ada around right now. So until someone nerfs Ada, or the meta slows down, we're not really going to see Shahs popping up that often in the top-end Rainbow teams. Cthulhu, as we mentioned, works well with Flame Strike, and he does have the useful trait of, if you build him for HP, he will just absorb a lot of Valkyrie hits. So if you are facing those teams built mostly of Valkyries, you can actually run a Cthulhu, and you know, he's a good counter pick for Valkyrie. But besides that, he really doesn't have much use. He's just Flame Strike's best friend and Valkyrie's worst enemy. Scary, you'll be surprised to see in tier 3, but that's how it was last time. Like, Scary is just a little too slow now, and the meta's sped up even more. That Scary just doesn't get to do the big damage we know Scary for doing. PvE, still dominating, but definitely not in PvP. Like, weak to CC, doesn't have the time to rack up, not doing the performance we'd like to see from Scary. Like, back about a few months ago, Scary was tier 1, but now things have sped up, and Scary's gone down. Demon Hunter we see in tier 3, and this is questionable. Like, Demon Hunter, she does see some play on some teams. She is fantastic at silencing opponents, and she can often be the reckoning force that stops Adas from going off. But the consistency of that is less, and Demon Hunter's quite squishy. If you build her for speed, so she can probably outspeed Adas, she's not going to get that control immune off her active, and it means she can easily be stopped. And it's more of a 50-50. Like, you can sometimes get some good performance from a Demon Hunter, but you sometimes can't, and obviously Valkyrie's the better pick, and with Oberon around now with CC, he's probably the one to go for. Vesa as well. Vesa's fantastic, but she's just not got the justification behind running her that we like to see. Like, Oberon and Valkyrie are really good, and it makes it hard to pick Vesa, because, I mean, when Vesa gets knocked down below 50% health, she'll remove all CC, heal herself all the way back up, and that's fantastic, and in the process she'll buff her crit. So if you can get her to get an active off after that, that's incredible, but the chances are she'll just get CC'd again, and it's not great. But, I mean, she is a great hero, we do like her, and there are some teams I've seen that have performed really well with her. So don't knock her just because she's in tier 3, she is probably the best hero in tier 3, and definitely has an argument for moving her up. We'll just have to wait and see if some people can do more fantastic things with Vesa. She is arguably tier 2, tier 3, somewhere between there, but right now we're keeping her in tier 3. Starlight, biggest surprise actually, we weren't expecting her to get buffed and changed. She's had a complete rework and she's really cool. Sadly though, this is more of a cheesy thing, and it's less consistent cheese than Aiden, or rather someone like Mim. It's weird cheese, and maybe you could make a Rainbow team where you run Starlight instead of Valkyrie, like we suggested earlier with the Aiden team. But yeah, it's just weird, isn't it? It's strong. Like, when heroes die, she can do some big damage. Go check out the video we made on her. She's great, and her basic attack has the chance to do some form of CC, and that's really good. But I don't know. She doesn't really do big damage like we'd like to see. And sure, she can do massive crit, but she's not the best, right? She is just one of those heroes that it's like, yeah, she's good, but she's not the best. Maybe you can abuse her in a particular team, but that's about it. So taking a look now at tier 4, we see very little change here. The only addition we've got is Bade, or as my text-to-speech voice likes to say, Bade. And if you build him for attack or HP attack holy damage, you can probably get some big numbers out of him if the RNG is on your side, but that's the problem. He's very orientated around rolling a dice. And if you've played Smash and you know Mr. Game & Watch and you get that 9, wow, big damage. But with Bade, it's exactly the same. Like, if he gets that massive damage, oh, beautiful. But if he can't, it's really a shame, and he just becomes a bit of a wet blanket. So I wouldn't run him just because he's not consistent, but I know there are some people that go, yeah, let's run him, but mainly that's just the hype that Bade's been reworked, and now he looks weird and different, and he's lost his horse, but, you know, maybe the emo looks good for him. He's got that kind of swishy hair, and he's lost his jaw, so who knows. If we look at Blip Blade, like Blip Blade, you know, Blip Blade, Kameth, Ice Blink, Karim, they're all just pretty standard, middle-of-the-road heroes that don't really see much play in late game, but they can be good. They can do lots of damage. Queen's definitely one of those big old budget heroes. Karim is amazing if you build him right. He can one-shot Valkyries, but he does need supporting damage heroes alongside him. So I think Karim is the sleeper of tier 4, alongside Kameth, surprisingly. Kameth, if you build him for speed, could potentially petrify backline heroes. And the backline heroes he could hit are Ada and Aspen if they're ran on the backline. And a lot of people, you can't run both, right? You can't put Aiden and... sorry, not Aiden. You can't put Aspen and Ada both in slot 2. So potentially Kameth could snag one of them, and until we get a Petrify Immune artifact, Kameth could see some usefulness, but it is praying to the RNG gods, hoping that that Petrify goes off, and Kameth doesn't really do a lot of damage outside of against petrified heroes, so maybe you could run him alongside a Dark Arthur Doll. In a Rainbow team, you could get some interesting stuff. It's one of those where it could be good, it could be bad. It's really worth waiting out and seeing. But I do like the idea of a Rainbow team that runs Ormus, Kameth, and Dark Arthur as a little Petrify package, and then Ormus to heal Dark Arthur back up to let her do big damage. And then, of course, you'd run Ada, Cruz, and Valkyrie. And I think it could be really cool to see that kind of team coming up. I'd love to build it, but I sadly don't have the Kameth copies because I followed my Kameth. But it does look like a team I'd be really interested in seeing. And if any of you can build that, for example, a lot of people I do know have that team, except they're running Horace instead of Kameth. Maybe switch the Horace out and put in a Kameth. You could see some interesting performance. It could not be worth it though, and it is a gamble, so maybe don't. And finally in Tier 5, we see the heroes which for some reason have elite hero status, but just aren't that great. Like Dantalion, okay. Just, yeah, he used to be a really good defensive hero, but that's about it. He can't do much damage, and he's like the Norma that isn't really Norma. He's just not good. Gru really dropped off severely. He's never been that good. It's just, yeah. Right, Walter, they changed him. They ruined him. His CC's crap. Like, one guy, stunned. Brill. Cheers. Most people are stun immune anyway, so if he hits a Faith Blade, or he hits a Mim, what a waste. And then Margaret, nah, right, she's just too crap. CC against poison heroes, so you have to poison them first? Not good. So there you go, guys. I hope you like it, and that's the tier list as it stands for May 2019. So this is obviously before E5 comes out, and when E5 comes out, I doubt this is going to be as stable as it seems right now. There are some things you may disagree with. Let me know in the comments. There are some things you could absolutely love. Again, let me know in the comments. If you want to get in touch, don't be afraid to get in touch with the social media links down in the description. And thank you guys. If you've enjoyed this video, give me a like, subscribe, and of course, have a great week. Happy idling.